Figure it out. Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series. Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today I'm going to show you how to clean, restore, and hopefully repair a Mattel Intellivision, assuming you need this. And thank you for watching, even if you don't need this. But so basically, here's the deal with my Intellivisions. I got these from a guy named Ivan. He contacted me, and I actually did a whole video on this. Basically, the dude gives me a whole giant box of 70s retro console goodness, and these consoles were both in that box, amongst other great stuff as well. Now this is of course the Mattel Intellivision 1, and this is the Mattel Intellivision 3. This is a redesign. There is a Mattel Intellivision 2 that looks very different than this, but for some reason they went back to this design. I'm not particularly sure why that was the case, but other than the black cosmetic changes, the only thing I noticed that's different about it is that this version has an LED on it to indicate when there's power, and this version does not. Since this version is the more notable and recognized version, for the purposes of this video, we're going to clean up this one. I will clean this one as well off camera so you can see the beginning and the end, but yeah, let's get focused on this one. So let's just get started here with phase one. So the first thing you're going to want to do is flip the console over, and you'll notice on the bottom there that there are actually 6 screw points. It looks like there's more holes because there are, but there are only 6 screws, and they all use a standard Phillips screw, so all you're going to have to do is just go in and remove those. Once you have your screws out, it's time to take the lid off. Now when you do that, I should note that this power button here is going to pop right off. It's just a little piece of plastic that actually comes off easily even without taking any of the screws out. So you're going to want to put this off to the side. And once you take the lid off, it's going to just come up like that. Now you'll see that these controllers are hardwired. So what you're going to want to do is take your controllers and just kind of feed them through the top of the lid like that. And then there you go, you have the top of the lid. Now we're going to go take this and we're going to go, wash up with soap and water and get all the dust, dirt, and grime out of there and get this nice and clean. So I wasn't planning on showing you anything with the Intellivision 3, but I did notice one difference that definitely is worth noting. So we talked about that LED. Well, unfortunately, the way Mattel did this, or whoever, yeah, look at that. It is fucking glued inside. You can't just take the case off. So you're going to have to probably do like spot cleaning with this. This is, yeah, I'm sorry, that's kind of a pain in the ass. It's been washed, it looks nice, it looks good. I also washed up the little power switch as well. You're going to want to do that. So now we're going to let this air dry and put this off to the side. And we're going to bring in the board again. Now there's any number of things you could do first, but I think what we should do is try to get the bottom piece out. So that's going to be a little bit complicated. We got a couple of things we have to remove. Now the controllers again are hardwired, which is just stupid. So we're going to, kind of take this part out here. Take this part out here, and that'll just kind of dislodge them a little bit. And then as you'll see, there's a bunch of screws there. So we're going to start by taking this panel off. So once you get all 6 of those screws out, this is just a piece of plastic you can just lift up. This is of course where the controllers are housed. So again, this is just plastic. Go ahead, wash this up with soap and water. I'm betting yours is filthy because mine sure as hell is. Got all sorts of shit from the 70s on it. Once yours is clean, I would say once again, go ahead and just put it off to the side and let it dry. So now it's time to focus our attention on this side of the console. Now you'll notice, at least in this case, there's 2 screws right here and 2 screws right there. So go ahead and take those out. Now focusing over here on the power switch side, you'll notice again there are 2 screws. And you'll also notice that one of the controllers goes underneath the screw. Keep that in mind because I'm sure we have to put it back there later. But for now, go ahead and take these 2 little screws out of there. Now that we've got all the screws out, it's time to take basically all the electronics out of it. So I'm going to start by lifting up the main piece here. This is the board where the cartridge connects and everything. And as you can see, it's wired up to the power source. So we're going to take that out and just kind of take that off to the side. And you'll notice it gets caught, so we got to lift this piece up. And then we're free. We can take the controller out. And then we get over here to the switch, and we can take out our power supply, and this thing's kind of heavy actually, and we can move this all off to the side. Now you'll notice, of course, that the power supply gets caught here. The reason for that is, well, the Intellivision is hardwired, which again is really stupid, but we're just going to go ahead and yank this all the way through, and I should have prepared for that a little bit, my apologies. But yeah, now we'll pull this through and get the power cable out as soon as it fits, just like that. And there we go. And now we have our bottom piece that is full of dust and all sorts of shit that's been in there since Jimmy Carter was president. All right, cleaned it up. All that dust is out of there. It looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and put this off to the side now, and I'm going to bring in the board. Now, there's a couple of things we can do to improve the probability of that this thing will work, and of course clean it up a bit. And the first is that we're going to basically blow air on it. We're going to get a bunch of dust out of there. Now, I used to use a lot of compressed air, and you can certainly do that, but I actually recommend this. This is the DataVac electric duster. I'm sure there's any number of versions of this. This thing is badass. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this, and it's going to be kind of loud, but you'll like it. It's fun. It makes a lot of air. Now you're playing with power. All right, this thing is much better than the Power Glove. But yeah, no, anyway, the idea is that you're going to want to go in there and make sure you get as much dust out of there as you possibly can. So do that to your own satisfaction, and then we'll move on. Now we're going to clean up the cartridge slot. Now for this, what I typically do is I use this. It's called a cartridge cleaning kit. Unfortunately, these are extraordinarily rare. They were really only sold in the 90s, and nobody's reproduced these. It's kind of a shame. I really wish they would. Somebody could make a killing selling these again. But point is, you need something like that, or you can use a, I've been told anyway, I've never tried this myself, it's something called the credit card method. You take a credit card or any kind of plastic card, wrap it in like a felt cloth or whatever, and basically do what I'm about to do, which is you take this little thing, this is the only one in the kit that would actually fit in here properly, and you spray some Windex on it, just like that, or window lean as it's known in certain parts of the world, and you put it in there, and you just kind of go back and forth, and just clean the contacts basically, and you'll get some dirt out of there, and yeah, depending on, I'm going to keep doing this more off camera, but yeah, you'll get more dirt out of there, and of course once the dirt's off, then it's much easier for this thing to read the game. There is an alternative method you could do, though I really don't recommend this, but I am going to pitch it to you just in case. You could take a game, this is one called Astro Mash, not that it matters. Basically, you want to take a game that you don't care at all about. A game that either doesn't work. For example, this cartridge doesn't even work. I tried it on, I have an Intellivision 2, and this thing would not run on it no matter what I did. So you could take a game like this or a sports game or something, and you could basically, take a Q-tip and just kind of get, some Windex on each thing and basically treat it as a cartridge cleaner. And then keep cleaning it off, and it'll basically take the dirt out of there, put it in here, and then you clean it off, put that on a Q-tip. You get what I'm saying? You could do that, but I don't really recommend it. But anyway, do your method of choice and go ahead and clean out the contacts. So once you're done with that, I recommend getting some air in there and making sure you've dried out the cartridge contacts. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, do that to your satisfaction. But now it's time to basically just do kind of like a spot cleaning. Just look around at certain areas. If there's some dust clumps or whatever that you don't want on there, go ahead and take like a Q-tip and some Windex and just kind of clean it off. The only other thing I might recommend cleaning with any real intensity might be the RF port. You could basically just take a dry Q-tip. I don't even think you need to get it wet there. And just kind of go like this and just see, just kind of dive it in there a little bit and see, that got a lot of dirt and nastiness out of there. So I'm going to do that a couple of times, and hopefully that would improve any kind of video signal this thing might give off. But yeah, beyond that, there's really not much else to do to get this thing clean. Now, if you want, we can clean up the controller. I'm going to go ahead and do that. There's 2 of these, so I'm just going to do this once. Now, on the bottom, it has 4 screws. So basically, all you got to do is go ahead and remove those. Once the screws are out, you basically just kind of take it apart. And you'll see, of course, that this thing will probably come out. There's a little spring there, your little panel. But you get your front plastic piece off. You're going to want to go ahead and clean that up. And on the bottom, this part's a little bit more complicated. I would suggest taking the ring part and going ahead and cleaning that up. But then you want to get this part out. So you're going to lift back here a little bit and basically up on the buttons and just take the guts out like that. And you'll have this little piece back there. And you'll have this piece, which I don't know what the hell it does, but it's on there. You can kind of lift it up just like that and get to your plastic piece. Alright, as you can see, they look much better. And now it's time to play the waiting game. We're just going to let all the plastic bits dry because naturally you don't want to put any of this stuff back together until that's the case. Alright, all our parts are dry, so it's time to put the controller back together. I should have mentioned this earlier. If you want, you can take your like a dry Q-tip and just kind of wipe around the edges on the contacts here and probably get some excess dust off, like this. Pretty easy stuff right there. You could also use Windex if you want to kind of clean up some of the contacts if you desire, but yeah, I'm not really going to do that. I think it's okay as is. But anyway, so there was some dust that came off there. But anyway, point is we're going to put this thing back together. Now the first step to that is to take the hardwired connection thing right here, and you'll see there's 2 little holes there. And they line up right there. Should just go right in, and then you can put this thing down and put that in place. And next, you're going to take this part, basically like the guts of it, and just kind of line this up. Now you'll see there was this little washer thing that's like made out of paper. That has to kind of go in the middle like that, and you'll line this back up into place. Goes in pretty easily. And then you take these little side pieces, and there's a little track, you'll notice, like on the bottom, and that kind of fits right into place with the controller. There's a little place for it. Same thing on the other side as well. Go ahead and stick that right in there. And then you put in this little thing, and we will take this and kind of put it into place like that. And then, well, I guess you could do it this way if you prefer. Just kind of line that up on top of the little washer there, and just fit that over it. And voila, your controller is back together. Now, of course, all you have to do is take your 4 original screws and put them back in there. Alright, I think the controllers ended up turning out pretty well. So now it's time to put the console back together because all the parts are dry. So the first thing we're going to do, put this off to the side and bring in our bottom piece. So the first step at that point is you got to take this long ass power cable, and you got to take the power part and stick it through there, and you know, just kind of thread it through. Once that's complete, it's time to put the board back into place. Now this is important. See how these things are connected? The controller, this one on the left, has to feed underneath, okay, like through there. See how the cord's like that? Make sure that's happening, otherwise you're going to be pissed. So anyway, take this part here and just kind of sit the main board like that into place, and then take the power supply thing, lift it up, make sure you got your little cardboard thing, and you're going to want to put this into place, and it'll just sit in there like that, and then take the power supply and just kind of sit it over. It's going to kind of hang up a little bit loose, but you'll be all right. You'll tighten it into place in a bit. And then take this thing and make sure these cables are facing down, and then just kind of sit that there. All right, now you might remember there were 4 silver screws that were slightly bigger and have this like rounded edge to them. What you're going to want to do is take 2 of them and put them there and there, tighten this thing into place, and take the other 2 and put it there and there and tighten those into place. Once that's locked in and that's locked in, you might want to pull on the power cable here and just, you know, kind of get rid of some of that excess slack. And then what you're going to want to do is take this controller, the one on the right, and make sure that this cable is maybe perhaps tucked in like this and is feeding between these 2 posts, okay? That's very important. And then you can just kind of sit it off to the side. Then you're going to take this thing, the power switch, and kind of line it up like this, and make sure it lines up again with these 2 posts. And as you may recall, there were 2 smaller silver screws. Those 2 screws, of course, will go right into the 2 posts. Once this is secured, it's time to take this thing and go ahead and lock this into place. So you just put this down in those slots there. It should fit right in. And then you're going to secure it with the 6 screws. Now there are 2 sets of black screws. The ones you need for this are these ones with the slightly like sharpened, rounder edge thing. See what I'm saying? As opposed to these ones that don't have that. You don't want these, you want these, okay? The ones with the little ring around it. Once this is secured, you're going to take your controller. You'll see how there's this little cube thing, all right? So what you want to do is you got to wedge it like this on the left side, just like that. And you could either secure this excess cable below or on the board. That's kind of up to you. I would suggest under the board a little bit if you can, and just kind of get that into place. Over here, you're going to do basically the same thing, except you're going to use this little tower part and just kind of, you know, wind it around there and then lock it in just like that. Then you're going to bring in the lid and kind of feed the controller up gently, pull it through a little bit, and do the same on the left side as well. Feed it through. And then, as soon as you have enough of the cable out of the way, you're just going to kind of sit the lid on top, just like that. It should just kind of sit into place. And then you're going to take your power switch here, and you're going to sit that right in there. And now you basically have the console back together, but of course it's not holding together very well because it needs to be tightened in, so that's what we're going to do now. We're going to flip the console over, and there's the 6 screw ports. So of course, naturally, you're going to take your 6 screws and put them in. Alright, and the console is back together, and it is looking pretty good. However, I do think we can make it look better. First, I should note that if your console has like little scuff marks, like little white marks on it or whatever, this one doesn't, so I won't be doing this. But if yours does, you can use a product called Mr. Clean's Magic Eraser. If you just kind of get the surface wet, you should probably do this when the console's apart, but if you get like the surface wet and then use this stuff, which is basically like this kind of really fine sandpaper, you can just kind of, you know, file on there and just kind of get the mark out, but don't use it on things like logos or whatever because it will take that off, but it is worth noting that you can do that. But since this one that doesn't apply here, what we're going to do is move on to the next stage. I kind of combined the two words. We're going to make this thing look shiny. We're going to bring on a nice lustery coat of awesome on it. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to use Pledge. This one is specifically orange, not that it really matters. You can also use, there's another version of this called like Pronto. I know that's what it's called in some parts of the world. It's just a nice cleaning product. So we're just going to put some on like a paper towel, like that, and just kind of wipe it down like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this on the top and on the sides and on the bottom and everywhere, and just kind of bring out a nice shiny coat to it. And then I'll let it sit and dry, and then I'll show you guys the results. And it's complete. I got, of course, this one's completely cleaned up now too. And yeah, I think it looks really good. I don't think it's looked this good since the late 70s. That's really nice. And of course, this one cleaned up really well too. There was little bits of like scuffing or something on this part, on these things. I couldn't quite get rid of that, but I did severely reduce the dirt, as you can see, and yeah, I think they look really good. But of course, do they work? First, I'll show you guys the one we didn't all look at, the Intellivision 3, and it works just fine. And now, for the moment of truth, I've got the same game in there. I've got Beauty and the Beast. Turn it on, and let's see. There we go. It's working just fine. So there you go, guys. I hope that helps anybody who needs to, clean up an Intellivision. It is a little bit complicated, as you saw, but it obviously does work. It is helpful. And thank you to Ivan for hooking me up with this stuff. That was really, really cool of him. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all later.